Hey guys, what's up? This is Bharat Nagpal. You're watching iGyaan. Today, ASUS launched the ROG Phone II. Now, this is a gaming-specific phone that has been launched in India for a price of 37,999 for the 8GB plus 128GB variant. That's the phone that we have here. Today, not only are we going to be unboxing it and checking it out, but we are also going to be showing you how they managed to fit everything inside the phone and how the phone is basically made. So let's quickly get started. The box is pretty typical of what you would see with a ROG phone. It's pretty understated on the front. It's a black box with some design accents on the top, but let's quickly go inside. Inside we get another insert which basically has the back protective case. Now this case is actually more of a bumper and it goes around the device, but it also protects the device and also allows you to see the design elements of the phone itself. And this case is also functional because you can also install the air cooling unit with the case still on the device, which is pretty cool. The next thing inside the box is of course the phone itself. I'm going to place it to the side for the time being. And if we go further in, we'll find the USB wall charger. Now this comes with different prongs for different regions. So since it's been launched in India, it comes with the EU style prongs or the Indian style prongs. And you also have a standard USB port on the back and a USB Type-C cable is included inside the box. That's basically everything from the box of the ROG Phone II. Of course, this is a pre-release box, so you'll get some documentation, warranty certificates, etc. once you finally get the phone when you buy it. Now, the ROG phone was a pretty good success for the company last year. It was fully loaded, had a lot of performance. This year around, they've taken it up a notch. You get the 855 plus chip. You get crazy amounts of accessories and cooling. You also have game pads and a dock, all of which we are going to be checking out in a later video. But in this, they've managed to keep it as a gaming phone, but also allow you to use it on a daily basis. This also has 3 basically USB-C ports, but 2 of them are usable. And when you power on the phone for the first time, it will tell you that you shouldn't insert the charging cable into the red USB-C port because that is possibly for dock connectivity or data transfers and not for power or charging. So be sure to not plug it into the USB-C port on the bottom side, which is the red one. There's of course a standard USB-C port on the bottom of the device. There's also a headphone jack. But before we talk a little bit more about the phone, I have something really special to show you guys, and this is basically the process of manufacturing the phone. How the phone goes through its various stages to become the ROG Phone II. It starts with an aluminum block or an aluminium block, and you can see basic elements of the phone are already on there, and you can see the plastic has been attached to the aluminum, and also lots of holes and markings are made. Now this is basically then machined down to a much smaller size, which makes basically the frame of the phone. Now this is a raw frame of the phone with the plastics and basic elements attached. You can also see the holes for the cutouts are also machined out of it, and the antenna lines and everything is clearly visible. Here you can see it after a coating, and this is what it looks like before the final parts are attached to the frame, and this is the third step of the process. And then finally you can see here some of the strips have been attached, more plastics are added, and then on the back you can see all the screw holes have been added to the block over here so that you can then start assembling the device. Now this is what it looks like once the battery has been added to the device. You can also see the antenna lines, some basic components have been added, and this is a 6000 milliamp hour battery, so it's a massive battery, but it's not very bulky, it's not very heavy either. Over at the front, the display and the glass has been attached, and you can see the dual stereo speakers on the front, but over the back you can see there's a lot of space over here. And right now I'm holding the phone upside down because the battery has been placed upside down. So if you flip it around, you can see the USB-C port and the headphone jack is on the bottom side of the phone. And once the layout is fully finished, this is what the device will look like. You can see the camera cutout on the top there as well. Now this is the main PCB or the motherboard of the device. You can see this is how it would basically fit in the device. Of course, because this is a completely broken apart unit, you won't be able to fit it in properly. But this is indicative of how you would attach the board on to the main frame of the device. ASUS has done a good job of heat dissipation from the device, and you can see that on the 855 Plus chip there's already a copper plate, but there's a lot more that's going on in terms of cooling on this device. So let me get rid of all of the other stuff and I'll show you how this phone is basically assembled. You can see that this is the vapor cooling plate. This is also made out of copper and it'll go on the back of the device to allow for better heat dissipation. And then between that is a graphite pad that will also allow for better dissipation. You can also see I have some other components over here, which I will quickly take out. Now this is another heat dissipation plate that goes on the front of the 855 chip. So it basically sticks directly on there, allows for better thermal conductivity and better heat dissipation. And now this is the bottom assembly. This is where basically the headphone jack is, and if you place the vibration motor in the space above, that will basically complete it. There is a secondary vibration motor that will go in this hole over here, and this is what basically the ASUS ROG Phone II looks like from the inside. But there is something that is really interesting to see, is that a lot of companies have been complaining about the fact that the headphone jack is becoming the major concern for most of these companies, but in this case you will see that the headphone jack is absolutely tiny. Now this is the final piece that goes on the back of the phone. Of course you'll get the copper plate and the graphite that goes inside there. Of course this is not the right orientation, I'm just placing it inside to show you what all will go inside the ROG Phone II and why they've managed to fit everything that's inside the phone over here. So that is basically how the phone is completed. And then of course your back panel, which is with the design and the RGB lighting, will go on the back. Of course a few things are still missing. We don't have the camera modules and the right side of the back plate, but this will give you a basic idea of what the ROG Phone II looks like from the inside and how they managed to fit everything in there. So you've got the back plate, which is the final back plate, and then you have the back cover, which is the NFC module, and the screw mounting mechanism is here as well. You've got the bottom plate over here, and in this, like I mentioned, the headphone jack is absolutely tiny. You can see how thin that is. So absolutely amazing how they've managed to fit this in, and while other companies have complained, including Samsung this year, managing to remove the headphone jack from their phone. This is the first vibration motor. Of course the graphite pad, as it's even mentioned on there. This is the vapor cooling chamber. With the copper, everything will allow the heat to dissipate properly. This is how it will go on the back of the chip. And then of course you have the main board over here, which also has that copper on there. All the components really nicely laid out, good utilization of space, managing to fit everything inside the back of the phone. And you can see the 6000 milliamp hour battery is there as well. So that's a basic look at how the ROG Phone II is made. Let's get back to the unboxing and check out the device in its entirety. Now if you do a one over with the phone, you'll see that on the front of the device you do have a 6.59 inch display. This is a 2340 by 1080 pixel display. This is at 391 pixels per inch, but this is an AMOLED display with a 120 Hertz refresh rate, which is crazy. This also has a 1 millisecond response. Now this is pro level gaming display as far as gaming displays are concerned. This also has 600 nits of brightness, 111% DCI-P3 color gamut, and a delta E average of less than 1%, which is amazing. It has 2.5D Gorilla Glass on the front. It is Gorilla Glass 6. You also have dual stereo speakers on the front and the front facing camera as well. This is a 24 megapixel camera with an f2 aperture. On the bottom of the device is the main microphone. You have the USB-C port, the headphone jack that we showed you a little earlier, and there's also a secondary noise cancelling microphone on the bottom. On the right also is another microphone, and of course you have your air triggers, the power button, and the volume buttons as well. On the top of the device, another noise cancelling microphone, and on the left side is where your dual USB-C ports are. Those are used for docking and attaching accessories, which we will show you in a later video. Unfortunately, I do not have the accessories right now. And below that is the SIM tray, which has 2 SIM slots. Now on the back are dual cameras. This has a 48 megapixel Sony sensor, which does have an f1.79 aperture. And there is a second sensor, which is a 13 megapixel sensor, which is an ultra wide at 125 degree. This has an f2.4 aperture. You can get 4K video at 60 frames per second. Overall, a really well-made device, looks really nice and looks premium. You can turn off the RGB lighting on the back if you don't want it to be flashy, but if you have RGB lighting, you might as well leave it on. Now, there's a lot going on when you turn the phone on as well in terms of the display and in terms of the setup. Once you're setting up the phone, you can actually set up the display to run at 60 Hz to save battery life. And then for every game that you play, you can switch it up to 120 Hz or 90 Hz depending on the support in the game, as well as depending on what you need from the device. Now, the touch response is also pretty impressive from the device, including the air triggers. So the display itself does about 49 milliseconds, which is pretty fast in itself, but the air triggers are even faster. They can bring it down to, I think, 39 milliseconds as far as touch response goes. So that is also pretty impressive. Now, there's a lot that can be customized in what ASUS calls the Armory Kit. It's basically like their game mode. You can customize the settings, like I mentioned, the display, air trigger, all of these settings can be customized from the Armory Crate, but there is also a panel that you can pull from the left of your device while you're gaming to pull out additional settings, including the placements of the air triggers. So if you're playing a game like PUBG, you can place your icons on the screen and then have the air triggers over them. So then you can use the air triggers to simulate a touch response, which is actually faster than touching the screen, which can come in as an advantage if you're playing games like PUBG. But it does take a little bit of getting used to, and especially coming in from a game like PUBG where it requires a lot of tapping on the screen, you might have a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to the air triggers, you're definitely going to use those more. Now, the phone has a bunch of other things built in as well. You do have dual zone vibration, haptic feedback. Like I mentioned, there's quad mic, noise cancellation, there is aptX, there is high-res audio, there is a DTS-X 7.1 channel surround sound. There's a lot going on this device, and we'll try and cover everything in the full review. As far as the camera app is concerned, it's quite detailed and it has all the features that you would expect from a modern smartphone. In fact, this is a more everyday usable phone than a dedicated gaming phone. Of course, it has all the features that you would want for gaming as well, and we will be doing a full review trying to show you all those features. But as an everyday phone, this phone will excel as well. So that's it for this video, guys. If you have any specific questions or queries regarding the ROG Phone II, do drop them in the comment section below. If you haven't already, guys, go check us out on Instagram at iGyaan. And that's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.